ongoing taxi violence in Cape Town has left many commuters stranded, thousands of commuters stranded. Last night, thousands of people could not go home after Golden Arrow reduced its bus services. It did this after one of its drivers was shot in the mouth. The Transport Ministry spokesperson, Ayanda-Allie Paine, joining us now on the Midday View. Ayanda, good to talk to you. Welcome to the Midday View on eNCA. I'm aware because last week we were live on the ground in Cape Town when the Minister, Fikile Mbalula, was there meeting with the local authorities, including the Western Cape MEC for Transport, Mr. Daylene Mitchell, and that the process was underway to bring about peace, but seemingly it's not working. Or is it? Or is it too soon for it to work?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moyane. A very good afternoon to you, afternoon to your viewers as well. It's a pleasure to be with you, albeit under very difficult circumstances. Yes, Minister Mbalula has been on the ground since last week. He is in Cape Town even as we speak, trying to find a lasting solution to the recent unrest in the taxi sector. I think it's too soon to discuss whether or not this has been a success because the discussions are still ongoing. You'll know that it is quite a feat in and of itself to get the two sides speaking. I'm speaking about Kudeta as well as Santako, as well as Kata coming together to speak about possible ways to find solutions going forward. So the fact that they are willing to negotiate, they are willing to come together and have these discussions, it is a step in the right direction. These discussions, as you have mentioned, well throughout the weekend. We know that the province has also been having stakeholder engagements and finding out from other associations how this should be resolved. On the table are discussions of whether or not you close the taxi ranks, which will affect commuters as well. The whole question of how to divide the routes is also something that's been subject to negotiation. I do believe that we should continue to keep a close watch on the proceedings there. It's too soon to rule off the success of these discussions this past weekend.
You're mentioning three associations, and if my recollection serves me right, last week Friday, the minister telling us that one of the major issues is a fight over routes. And historically, the taxi industry has been beset with the fight over taxi routes in different parts of the country, and particularly in the Western Cape. Does the department have an idea of what suggestions can be put on the table to resolve this dispute over routes?
A number of suggestions have been discussed, especially during the taxi lekgotla that we had last year that is finding expression now in some of these conversations that are being held. You'll remember that first and foremost is the issue of regulating the taxi industry. Rules, regulations, policies, code of conduct, practice and benchmarking, what should and shouldn't be done. And this just supersedes what's happening in the Western Cape. This speaks to the industry across the country. Secondly, professionalizing the industry. What to expect when you get into a taxi as a commuter. Who do you report to if there's some sort of mistreatment? Is there a regulatory body that can provide oversight and strategic guidance? That's number two. But also the minister then speaks about who benefits from the entire value chain of the taxi industry. This is a multi-billion rand industry that could benefit commuters, could benefit operators alike. But at the moment, those who are benefiting are the owners of your financing companies that provide financing to your taxis, those who are manufacturing the taxis, it is those who provide fuel, for example, to the taxis. So discussions about how to grow the pie, as it were, so that the operators are not just looking towards routes in order to secure income, but they can also benefit from shares from a bank, for example, or shares in fuel supply, or shares in an automobile manufacturing. So those are discussions that need to happen. And lastly, and certainly not least, subsidy from the government would also assist the taxi industry. Buses are subsidized in this country, trains are subsidized in this country, other modes of transport, but we're seeing that the taxi industry is not subsidized. But we can't speak of subsidy without your regulation and professionalization. And so these are discussions that have taken place during the taxi lekgotla. At the moment, they are finding expression through a body that will then comprise of eminent persons that will bring about some of the regulations that were discussed, and we need to see the implementation sooner rather than later.
And finally, Ayanda, the matter of safety and security, not just of the owners of the taxis, the drivers, the commuters as well. It would be a stake. I'm just wondering the kind of cooperation the National Department of Transport would need from the Western Cape Transport Department, from the local law enforcement agencies, the South African Police Service. I mean, we're talking to you now. I think about 6 or 7 people have died in the recent shooting, and just last night, a driver of the Golden Arrow buses was also shot in the head. So the matter of safety and security, your department can't provide that, but you have to work together with the South African Police Service as an example. Are you finding it that there's an understanding on the ground in the Western Cape that safety and security should be prioritized?
You know, it's so important that you mentioned that. Unfortunately, the numbers are well past 6 or 7. We're looking at the 20s just in the recent unrest that we've seen with regard to the taxi industry. And I can't continue without sending sincere condolences to those who have lost loved ones. Minister Mbalula just this past weekend was visiting the James family, who lost their 21-year-old daughter. She was caught in the crossfire in the wrong place at the wrong time. A shootout ensued and an innocent life was lost. And unfortunately, that's a story we hear so often when it comes to the unrest in the taxi industry. And so we do send our sincere condolences. I think something else that's very important is we've seen that the Department of Transport is a concurrent function. You have National Department of Transport, but also in the province. And the province has the authority to open and close ranks. They have the authority to bring about harsher penalties when it comes to what we're seeing. And we've seen such good camaraderie between the National Department and the province. They've put aside political differences and have really put the commuter front and center. We do appreciate that as national government. We've had not only the cooperation, but a good working relationship with the province of the Western Cape, even under the previous MEC and the current one as well. And so we are seeing that we are finding progress in that regard. Of course, you speak about interdepartmental working together, and we are seeing that SAPS has definitely come out to say they will investigate these shootings. We will not stand by as the Department of Transport and just fold our arms and just write this off as violence in the taxi industry, where those who choose to solve their disagreements through the barrel of a gun are doing so in this country, they will face the full might of the law. And I don't speak on behalf of SAPS, but I'm of the view that I can guarantee that these matters are being given a top priority.
Thank you very much, Ayanda-Allie Paine. Speaking on behalf of the National Department of Transport, Minister Fikile Mbalula currently in Cape Town since last week on the ground, trying to assist local efforts there at the provincial level and at the city level to stop this ongoing violence in the taxi industry.